Hey everybody, today is November 21st, 2018. This video is going to be a little bit different from most of my videos. We're not going to be talking about any news stories by the numbers. We're not going to be talking about anything like rigged sports. We're going to strictly be looking at the concept and the idea of an organic matrix. And please just have a little patience with me during this video because this is news that I just found out about a couple hours ago, and it's a personal story. And the reason I'm doing this video is because I would be doing a disservice to all my other work if I did not reveal what I believe is really happening in this world, which is that we are living in a computer simulation. Some might call it a matrix. Some might call it a simulated reality, whatever you call it. What we're living in is only one layer of many layers of reality that's going on underneath. And I mean, I don't know how to better explain it other than just to show you the numbers and what's really happening. Now, for a little story about what I'm talking about here. On the right side of the screen is, let me just put this in full screen, hang on. So, this is a local news story, and the person in the story who was murdered is a friend of mine. I did not know her that well, but she was with our group of friends. She was very close with our sister-in-law. And if you read the article, I mean, it's pretty clear what happened. This was a domestic violence incident. These two were going to get divorced. And, what we had feared, the worst case scenario might happen, actually did end up happening. Now, personally, I feel really bad for my brother and his wife because, they wanted to help her more. They wanted to take her out of the house and protect her, and she didn't want any of that. And so we went out of town for the weekend and just found out news, I think late last night or earlier this morning, that she was found dead, and then found out shortly later that the soon-to-be ex-husband was arrested. And I didn't link this article. I'm going to link this in the description now, actually. And again, sorry for kind of taking my time here, but doing what I can. I'm going to put it in the description. A link to the article in the description. That should save and be in there shortly. So, sorry guys. If you read the article, they talk about an incident from September 22nd. And September 22nd, this was, you just check out the criminal complaint. It says that Madeline had texted a friend. That was actually my sister-in-law. My sister-in-law and her brother were over at my house that night. And they had to leave the party. And, as soon as we figured out what was going on, I was like, dude, you guys got to go. Like, you got to go and help her. So they did. They got her out of the house. The guy ended up getting arrested because in Wisconsin they don't mess around with domestic violence, and now we see why. So, this guy had an ankle bracelet on. I guess he figured out how to tweak it so that it didn't go off when he left the vicinity. Definitely went all the way. He spent all the time did all the Google searches for what he had to do. I got a lot of bad things to say about this guy. I'm not going to say him now. I'm filled with a lot of, a lot of hatred, and it's not the best emotion to have right now. So, what I want to point out to you guys is that this is by the numbers, and it's every bit as coded as anything we see in the mainstream media. And I'm not out here to say that the mainstream media is no longer lying because everything just happens by this code, but what I do want to say is that I think maybe a lot more that is happening is organic, because this is unreal. So, to start this off, we talk about the number of death. Death equals 38. We see the words murder, killing, RIP, all of these sum to 38. And if you're familiar with my work, this is not just something I'm pulling out of my arse. This is something I talk about all the time. It's always coded into death rituals. But by who? Maddie's name was Madeline Kim, which sums to 163 in Jewish Gematria, the 38th prime number. And when she died, her husband, who committed the murder, was 10,603 days old, just like this 163. And I also noticed that when you type in their common names, what we would call them, like as we would say it out loud, you also get a 163 in reverse. The name Kim equals 33 in the alphabetic order. We're going to look at single reduction gematria, where every letter, every double-digit number is reduced once. So the only difference between this and full reduction is the letter S. His full first name was Sun Kyun, which sums to 33 in single reduction. Remember, Sun equals 330 in Jewish gematria. And then his name, Sun Kim, also had 33 with the S exception. So a lot of 33s here. An observation I often make is that the MM or WW initials are like a sideways 33. And although her name was Madeline Kim, she went on Facebook by Maddie May. I don't know if that was a recent thing. Obviously the marriage was taking a turn recently, and she had filed for divorce. So, it's just interesting that there's that 33. And look how old she was when she died. Now, we're not exactly certain on the date. In the article, it says overnight November 16th, early morning November 17th. Based on the details I've heard and the people who are closest to the story, it sounds like it was the wee morning hours of the 17th. And on that date, she was 333 months and 30 days old. She was also 303 days after her birthday. And 33, just like 38, is a number that I commonly say is coded into these rituals. And this goes back to the crucifixion code. Jesus crucified at age 33. Crucifixion of Jesus Christ equals 303. And in Jewish gematria, 33 has the same gematria as ritual sacrifice and ritual human sacrifice. So how weird is it, guys, that you get all these threes in her age? When you write the number out, 33, you get this value of 66. This is also the value of homicide, 66. And I couldn't help but notice that the word homicide is in the headline. He said, I did the homicide, which doesn't seem like something someone would normally say necessarily, right? You think, I don't know how you would confess to a murder, but it's just strange that that word was used in the quotes, because not only does homicide equal 66 like 33, but the date numerology of the murder, 11/17 plus 20 plus 18 equals 66. And the victim's name also has 66 gematria in the reverse order. The date, 11/17, if you've been following my work over the past couple weeks, you've been really familiar with the homicide code, which has been in huge effect, along with the Malibu fires. My last video on the death of Kim Porter had a lot of talking about the homicide code, 187. It's section 187 of the California Penal Code that defines the crime of murder, particularly first degree, or 187. And 11/17 is a number that's connected to 187. Very specially, in fact. See how the digits in the prime factorization are the exact same as the prime relationship. 187, the homicide code, connected twice to 1117 through prime numbers. And she died on the date 1117. It was the date leaving 44 days in the year. The word kill equals 44. Her Asian husband had a life lesson number of 44 on his birth date. Asian equals 44. Their names, when combined, equal 44. You know. Also, he was born in 89, for whatever that's worth. They didn't find her body until the next night, Sunday, which was the 18th. And that was a date with 67 numerology. The phrase blood sacrifice and human sacrifice has that 67. In reverse, both of these phrases sum to 86. And the number 86 is often used as slang to off someone or get rid of them. And her name, as it was presented on Facebook, you know, her common name, Maddie May, sums to 86. She also has the 130 in reverse, which lines up with human sacrifice. And we know that 13 is significant to these rituals. In Hebrew Gematria, because this Gematria, it's an ancient Hebrew Jewish practice, and their language was definitely key to the code. The word sacrifice in Hebrew... No, I knew that wasn't it. It's this one. Yeah, this translate is all buggy. Like, you type in sacrifice, you used to get this word, now they changed it so you get a different word. But either way, this is definitely the gematria of sacrifice in Hebrew. And it's 347. Now, 347, this is the gematria of the number 13 when we spell it out. 13, 347. So I just want to demonstrate that there's a, an ancient connection, too, with these numbers. A couple more observations. Her name sums to 213, like death in Satanic. Yeah, guys, I don't know what else to say about this. It's just... there were a number of things that led up to this, too, led up to me getting the news. And, I don't know, because everyone has to wake up to this reality on their own. And, I feel like me telling a story about what I was doing before I got the news of this event, like, I don't know if that's going to mean enough to you, and it's going to... I was looking at the organic matrix before this, and, I don't know, guys. It's like, I don't know how much I should talk about. Let's just say I was decoding something in the organic matrix before I got a text message with the news. And it had to do with the person that is a really good friend of hers. It just so happens that I'm going out with this girl for the first time on Friday, or was. And then we found out that her best friend was murdered. It's just like, talk about a rough start, you know? So, it was, it's funny, just when you think things are falling into place for you, right? You get slapped up and reminded that we are just minuscule, minor pieces of this giant puzzle that we're in. And you know, it's like we're all supposed to learn something. You know, if you stop learning, then what's the point of being here still, right? And I almost feel like I'm supposed to learn a lesson from this. I don't know. But this kind of stuff just really spooks me out. Like, you know, I tell you guys what I think is the most significant cipher, Jewish Gematria. Her name's got that 163 in it, which I always talk about, and this is how old dude was when he killed her. Like, I mean, I don't know. I've said I don't know probably more times than any other video, but I really don't know. I really do not know what's going on. So, with that, everybody, I'm going to sign off. And like I said, I don't know what else to say. I just want to make sure that I'm doing justice to this study by talking about the organic synchronicities. Because, look, if there's ever been anything that happened organically, naturally, like this is it that I've ever known of. When I got into this work, it was because my sister-in-law lost her father by the numbers, and he died in a workplace accident that was completely random, many witnesses, so we know that was real and organic. And then this happens, and I know it happened. I know who did it. There's no freaking question. We know about the witnesses who saw the car there. I mean, it's no clue. No, like I said, no question about what happened, and there's no conspiracy here, I guess, is what I'm getting at. And it still happened by the numbers, to the max. And this isn't the only one. You know, if you go to my blog, which is linked down below the video, I have a section on here called the Organic Matrix. If you choose to browse by category, this Organic Matrix thread is, I mean, this. I hope everybody's following this category as well as everyone else, because this to me is where the real knowledge lies, right? I mean, this is the knowledge that others are using to rule over us, and if we all gain this knowledge, then we can't be ruled over so simply. But in this Organic Matrix category, I still have a post pinned. I've had this pinned up here for almost a year now since I started the blog. This is the story from, let me share my screen again. This is the story from why I got into Gematria. I was already working on an Excel calculator, but this is what got me, you know, really getting serious, calling into Zach's show, building the website. It's all because of what happened organically. And at the time, I was following Zach's work, and I reached out to him with this story because I was like, I just had a question. I said, I don't think what we're looking at is what we thought it was, is all I was basically saying. On the very bottom, there's another post about another person I knew who got murdered last year. And it's not like people were getting murdered around me all the time before this. Well, I mean, people would die, but I shouldn't say that. Let me clarify. I don't want anyone to think that more people in my life around me are dying since I started this work. That's not the case. We know that this was just something that happened. I mean, you had a domestic violence incident. A friend of mine from several years back was killed in November 16 before I got into this work. You know, so it's not me. Like, it's got nothing to do with me, all right? I just want to be clear on that. But a man that my cousin used to date was murdered in November, and one of my first blog posts was on the extremely creepy numerology and instance that happened surrounding this death. And he died on the date November 30th, which I've identified as being very significant due to its gematria. And the guy who died had everything to do with the number 11. And the real kicker on this story is that 11 days after he was killed, I got my doorbell went off. Like, just seconds after I walked in the door, my doorbell rung. I was walking in the back. You know, the doorbell's in the front. Ran through the house, opened the door. There was nobody there. When I walked outside to look to see where anybody was, I got a phone call from a phone number that was just one digit off of my phone number. And I'm outside there standing there like, okay, what the hell is happening? And I still don't know what happened. You know, did like a person hack my doorbell and then call me when I went outside? I mean, I looked in front of my house when I drove up. There was nobody out there. And then I got that phone call, and I'm just like, what is happening? What the frick is happening? And I'm telling you guys, the more I ask for... the more I ask for answers, the more guidance I look for. Every time I ask for more light, more knowledge, I get pointed at this all being organic. And I see why the knowledge is hidden. Because it's so spooky. And, you know, I want to get in this for the truth. I want to understand what's happening. And first I came here yelling conspiracy because what else am I going to think? You know, all this stuff is happening by the numbers? This is impossible. How is this all possible? And, so, you know, I had a lot of people that loved me, that knew me, worry because they thought I was going off the rails. And I was like, well, don't you see what I'm seeing? How is this crazy? This is not crazy. There's nothing crazy about it. It's just, it's so obvious what's happening. And, so from my viewpoint, it always was a conspiracy, and I'm sure there are parts of it that are a conspiracy. I mean, I'm still going to do videos exposing the mainstream media for what they are. Because when I looked for truth, it was because what I was seeing looked fake to begin with. Then I dug and found the numerology underneath, and I said, oh, wow, this is all a hoax. So I just figured everything that was coded that way was a hoax. But once you start paying attention around you and start looking at, you know, once you understand what your numbers are and your name, your birth numerology, and then start paying attention around you, you realize something really, really amazing is happening. And so I did some work on the organic matrix, and I realized that, you know, there was something to it, but I never really made it a focus of mine because my, you know, we got to take the world back first, and then we can worry about this, what Gematria is and how we can use it for our benefit. But, you know, the events that we're decoding are so heavily coded and so perfect that it's absolutely impossible for humans to be doing this with computer software. Because you're talking about, you know, what really opened my eyes to this, I guess one of the first things anyway, was when I was decoding the Austin bombings this year, and I looked at the connections between Daniel Bryan and Roddy Piper. And, you know, I invite you to go and look that video up, Austin bombings, Gematrinator. I'm sure it'll come up. And in that video, I talk about how connected by the numbers Roddy Piper and Daniel Bryan are. And let me type this in and show my screen here. The name Brian Lloyd Danielson, Daniel Bryan's full name, equals 86. You turn that number upside down, it's 98. And I think it was Roddy Piper that was 98. Yeah, it is. And they were born 9,898 days apart. And Daniel Bryan, the pro wrestler, he's not some Masonic fucking acting goon. He's not some evil person who's sworn to secrecy or oath-keeping. He's not part of this cabal. He just happens to be a person who's really good at wrestling. And it just so happens he's coded alongside Roddy Piper. It's just like, my point is, you know, these things just can't possibly be scripted by people. Because the people who have these numbers that they're using and paying tribute to, like, they're not all part of the gang. You know, a lot of them are, but, you know, when you look at a sport like pro wrestling, I mean, you don't have a whole lot of Masonic stooges in there. You have some. Mark Henry, you know, Hulk Hogan. But most of these guys are just hard workers. You know, you gotta really, really love pro wrestling to be a pro wrestler because it's the craziest job you can have. And you're not going to find a bunch of evil people sworn to secrecy to do it, you know, but it's still a company run by the cabal. And I feel like I'm rambling at this point. Like, Um, but there's definitely a real life organic matrix, and I guess that's essentially the point I'm trying to make. So this time I am gonna really wrap it up. Again, I just felt like I have to do this video and help people, wake up to what we're really living in and understand a little bit more about what we're up against. And if this is all happening so naturally, like, how worried do we need to be? I see so many people living in fear. Like, we've been conditioned to fear. That's how we've been brainwashed. They want us scared. And people start to wake up and see the control system, and then they constantly look for the next disaster date. And I don't want to blast everybody who's trying to make future predictions, because, eventually one of you guys is going to land a prediction and it's going to look really good, I guess. But I feel like a lot of it is based in fear. Like, when's the next big thing happen? We got to figure out when the next big thing is going to happen. And, if you just live your life like that, I mean, you're just always going to be scattering around. You're always going to be angry. You're always going to be upset with things, and you're never going to be able to enjoy your life. And, that's half the reason we're here, is to enjoy it. We have to grow and learn and help others, but if you're not enjoying it, you'll never do well at the rest. So that's my message to everybody. So I didn't really address the chat. I mean, I just had a lot on my mind for this. So thanks to everybody for jumping in and dealing with me through this. Thanks to all of you. God bless. And I guess it's a blessing for me to be able to have an audience that's understanding of what I'm presenting and supportive through something emotional such as this, because it's real life we're dealing with, and it has its ups and downs. And, just when you think it's all setting up and everything's going to be fine, then something weird happens, right? You guys haven't seen my cat in a while, have you? Ugh. Say hi to Phantom, everybody. She's a little tubby. All right. All right, guys. Thanks again. This is the longest goodbye of my life, but I'm doing it, so. See ya.